The following program does not offer personal medical advice. Please consult your doctor before using any treatment or product we cover. Welcome to GoToHealth Media with your host, Jonathan Marks. We provide a welcoming environment where experts educate you on important health topics, answer your questions, and provide information from which you can benefit in consultation with your doctor. You can visit and subscribe to the show at gotohealthmedia.com. And now, here is Jonathan Marks. Hey everyone, this is Jonathan Marks from GoToHealth Media. We're back with another episode of GoToHealth, How to Elevate Your Life, with information from experts. We interview health experts from around the world who update us on the latest technology and approaches to health and wellness and the handling of diseases we acquire from our lifestyle, genetic background, or environmental exposures. You can find our video shows on our website at GoToHealth Media and also on our GoToHealth Media YouTube channel. We also publish our shows on 8 podcast networks, so you can learn from our experts in many places. Please like our videos and subscribe to our channel and website so that you don't miss our information-packed episodes that can elevate your life. Today, we're focused on improving care for our senior citizens. If you're a senior citizen, a caretaker, or a loved one, stay with us as we'll be discussing the integration of new technologies to enhance elder care. Our expert today is Kasey Devine. He's the Vice President of Strategic Growth at ProcareHR, specializing in senior living operations and human resources. With a passion for enhancing senior care, Kasey brings practical insights from years of experience in leadership and business transformation. Committed to impactful caregiving, he emphasizes holistic approaches and values direct, clear communication to drive growth and innovation in the industry. Kasey's company, ProcareHR, provides staffing solutions for senior care and disability operators so that these facilities can focus on patient care. You can find them at ProcareHR.com. Welcome to the show, Kasey. How are you today?
Hi, doing quite well. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.
Good. So why focus on senior living? What's your background? And tell us a little bit about how you got into this field.
I got into it in a very curvy line. So my background is in HR tech and outsourcing for the past 9 years. And through happenstance, I got introduced to ProcareHR, very thankfully. I've been adjacent to senior housing for the entirety of my marriage, at least. My wife is a speech therapist in skilled nursing facilities. And so the opportunity to combine those two things were serendipitous. But why really focus on it? I think for a few different reasons. Number one, folks need help. It's a difficult environment to manage and maintain from an operations perspective. Mm-hmm. And number two, it's something that just personally why I decided to join. I felt really passionate about it. There's opportunities in the private sector to serve someone's bottom line and serve some sort of investor. And the opportunity to serve people who serve others really just brought an extra level of meaning to my work that I couldn't say no to.
You just talked about this passion that you have. Did this come from some personal experience?
The personal experience, I'd say, is like my first exposure into it was again through my wife, like being able to hear on a day-to-day basis what the staff in these facilities and communities go through and the lengths that they take to serve others was really empowering. And also the residents in the communities and how their lives are changing and impacted. Like it's very easy to hear any number of stories and be moved. And that's different than just necessarily looking at a profit and loss statement for insert kind of company here. There's an extra level of human dimension.
Exactly. Good. So you've got this experience in senior healthcare. I'm sure it's of great interest to many people how to be a good consumer of services for senior care. How do you look for good care? How do you evaluate the care that's being given? Tell us a little bit more about that so we can be more informed when we have need of services.
Sure. So a couple different things I would call out, and I will try to be as specific but fair to everybody and all the different approaches as possible. First thing is, if you're raising your hand and interested in any variety of housing solutions, it's really important to understand how you're going to consume the information, even as you're evaluating. There are aggregators out there, et cetera. So even before you decide to go down that path, make a conscious decision of how you're going to share your information, with who, and what you're willing to consider and what you're not. And driving that personally can be a very good thing. Second thing is this is part of why I'm joining today, is to really understand what the operators of the communities themselves are going through, and some of the things that they're managing to, outside of just the sales and marketing experience that you see when you visit a community, which is very important. But there's things like staffing shortages, regulations, et cetera, that if you understand are important to them, you might be able to be a better consumer, because you get the entire picture, not just what you saw when you got a tour.
So what kind of questions would I ask about the challenges they're having that would make sense for me to make a decision on where I spend my time?
As I say this, I would say it's some of this is mandatory for them to share. Some of this is optional. A lot of this, if you do enough research online, you can find, because it's reported. Look into care outcomes. That's the first thing. Like, if someone is living there, how do they generally do? What are the outcomes? Because part of the idea of entering into the community within senior living is that you're going to have better outcomes for your life. And so there's obviously other reasons folks enter into it, but are those measured? And if so, what is that like? What kind of compliance does that organization have? What track record do they have of complying with local, state, and federal legislation that are designed to take care of people when no one else is around? And so some of those laws and regulations are there for a reason. You want to find an operator that takes that seriously, that they can really make sure that you're getting the highest quality of care possible. I would ask is staffing ratios. Even if they don't feel comfortable sharing that information, easy thing to do if you're being an educated consumer, go on that organization or the parent company of that organization's website, go to careers. And if there are a bunch of open roles, ask why. If there's not that many, maybe you don't need to ask why.
Mm-hmm. How would I find out about evaluations? Are there third-party websites that evaluate the quality of care that are given in these residential homes?
There are. And the models that they deploy have a variety of opinions around them. I'm trying to be as fair as possible. Some people are very big fans of organizations that have that aggregating capability and see things at scale, see trends at scale, and can make advice with some really well thought out data. Others are completely opposed to it because of things like data sharing, things like potential bias, etc. So it really just depends on what you're looking for. I think one of the easy things you could tick off of your checklist is, what area of the country, of the state, of the community do you want to live in? And that might be limiting in and of itself. If you wanted to live within 10 miles of your current home today, there's only so many options there. But if you're open to moving across the country, that's a completely different story. So what are you even in for before you go potentially giving away your data?
Tell us a little bit about some of the dynamics that are taking place in the management of senior care living these days.
Yeah. So there's a really interesting demographic shift going on as we speak. And so the baby boomer generation, on average, is entering the age range that, on average, people enter into senior housing. Mm-hmm. And that is very important because people are entering into senior housing. It's also important because as those folks retire, they're leaving vacancies in their roles. And one of the biggest things to be aware of in management is that those roles are, you're having the funnel kind of leak out both sides. And what I mean by that is folks are leaving because they're retiring. And it's also so that also increases the demand. And also on the other end, the younger workforce is not entering into senior care at the same rate.
Hmm.
And so right now, depending on where you look, it looks like uh, America specifically is very under prepared to meet the projected demand for senior living as soon as 2030. It looks like we're building somewhere between we need to be building 5 to 10x what we are building today to be able to take care of that demand. That's the first thing. But second is, even if all the funding came together and that all was evenly distributed where people are and perfectly done that way, we still have a massive workforce shortage where even today, and the supply of communities that are there, most communities are anywhere between 10 to 20% at least understaffed. Some aren't because they've been very innovative of how they go to solve those problems. But that's a huge thing, especially coming out of COVID-19, where you had a lot of heroes in healthcare that really worked hard and put their lives on the line. On top of that, now you have this strain of having to do more with less in an industry that, for good reason, from a business perspective, the margins are relatively set. So there's not really a way to just charge significantly more. So they really have to continually innovate from a management perspective.
Mm-hmm. And is there truly a shortage of labor? I mean, and I guess a shortage of homes. If we're not building enough homes and we don't have enough staff. So what's somebody to do?
If you find out that answer, please tell everybody, because that is what we're all talking about. It is a very multifaceted issue. And without getting into a lot of opinion, what I would say is a couple different things is, like, there are some operators and communities out there that deeply care and have been in this industry through ups and downs of a lot of different economic times, social times, et cetera, that probably aren't going away in addition to this. And so reputability is a great thing. And there's folks that are entering the market because they have a heart for this and they see that this is the problem that needs to be solved. And so for the newcomers to the space, I wouldn't discount it. I've seen a lot of amazing and, quite honestly, inspiring legal immigration happening into the senior housing space, where countries in Africa and even Asia are their nurses and healthcare workers are working in partnership with senior housing operators to come to the United States to help solve these problems. Because if you think about it, in a densely populated area, I live in Minneapolis, St. Paul area. If someone's going to decide to be in healthcare, you're also competing with hospitals. So it's a competitive environment in large metros. In small metros, there's only so many people, and so even if you don't have a large healthcare competitor in your town, you're also just competing with somebody. If I graduate high school, going into manufacturing, going into law enforcement, leaving the town altogether, or staying, becoming qualified to be a staff member in that community, and then being a contributing staff member.
So this has been a very interesting and advisory discussion about how to look for senior care. And Kasey, you're going to supply us with some links that I'll put on our website about where you can go to evaluate various different care facilities. And there are third-party evaluations so that you can rely on them to a certain extent. You always have to use your own judgment, but Kasey will provide that, and we'll put that in the description on our website. So Kasey, I wanted to move to the second part of our interview, which is talk about technology integration. So there's just a plethora of technology coming out these days with AI and remote monitoring that's just really taking a huge bite out of the market here in terms of providing services. Can you talk about some of the hot integrations and hot technologies that are coming down the market in relation to senior care?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's incredibly inspiring to see some of the things that are happening within technology. So I was at a conference, and I'll get this at least directionally correct, this fact that was shared. It's something like the average resident at a senior living community has 8 devices connected to Wi-Fi now, which is usually surprising to folks. And so technology in senior housing are not antithetical. Mm-hmm. So the two main places, and I'll focus on one for the sake of the audience. There's the technology that enables the operations, and so a lot of that technology you're not going to interface with, but that back of house is very modern now. There's not a lot done with pen and paper. Then there's person-centered technology, and that's going to take, if I split that further into two different buckets, there's how do I interact with others, and how do I interact with the community, within those four walls, the staff, and my community outside of those four walls. That's that. And then there are technologies meant to provide better quality of care and better life experience. So there's even predictive analytics going into fall detection from even some such things as like an app on your phone to detect changes in your stride, or there's monitoring that can detect, obviously with permission, differences in habits over time that might not be perceptible to staff members, that might suggest that something is wrong before you or the staff even know it. There are ways of even preventing accidents from medication management or anything like that. So there is a rising and upswell of technology in this space.
Yes. So you mentioned some of it has to do with communications, some of it has to do with monitoring. And am I correct in saying that if you have a particular app or a particular piece of software that's monitoring you, that your family could be getting feedback on how you're doing, as well as the staff of the home you're living in? Is that possible these days?
Completely possible. Yes. I'm even a member of the AARP Age Tech Collaborative. So one of the largest nonprofits in the world is actually dedicating resources to making sure that tech startups have a great place to get connected, to focus on technology related to aging across the spectrum of what that means. And so I think it's, I think that's wise, because even from a cold hard dollars and cents perspective, we're all aging. Like our population overall is getting on average older. So it would make sense that we turn some of that innovation into improving the quality of life for a lot of folks.
Great. And again, you've got some resources that you can share with me that we'll put on our website in terms of some of this new technology that's coming out for senior care.
Absolutely. I'll be happy to highlight some friends of mine, and then also just provide resources where if you were wanting to go research and understand more about what all is out there, because I'm not aware of everything, you'll be able to have some launching off points.
Great. So this is kind of the overview of what's happening with senior living and how to be a good consumer of services and how senior living is developing. Let's talk about what are some of the outcomes that we hope to achieve with all this. I mean, what are some of the areas that really need improvement? What are the areas where we're excelling in senior care? What outcomes should we be looking for?
I think overall, you're looking for longer life expectancy and better quality of life as measured by insert point of data here, whether that's mobility, whether that's happiness, whether that's incidents from a health perspective or chronic illness or whatever. We're looking for that to be better than if you were not interacting with a community. And there's some very valid cases for why aging in place or home healthcare absolutely makes sense and is also rising as a way to administer care. But we're the argument overall is that being part of a community and being surrounded by peers that are going through a lot of the same parts of life, and also having very quick access to professionals when those changes happen unexpectedly, because it's like 4 p.m. on a Tuesday when something new happens, and it's never quite when you expect it. So having that nearby should make it so that problems stay smaller longer, and that you avoid problems, and that you are not isolated, because there's a lot of studies that are showing that social isolation is a huge determinant in quality of life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit too, because you just brought it up. I mean, there's the whole idea of a retirement community, but then there's a lot of people that are still wanting to live at home and be independent. And basically have technology in their home that can help them live a productive life. Can you talk about more of the home-based care and both the services that are available and also the technology?
Yeah, I'll do my best. It's not my specialty. So what I will share is that it's zooming out broader to the acuity spectrum, which is basically how much care somebody needs. That starts with none, and I'm a fully independent person.
Yep.
Then you would say it gets into active adults if you're in a facility based or community based, and then independent living, assisted living, all the way down into skilled nursing or memory care, and then some of that can be available on a home healthcare basis. It just depends on how much assistance you need, essentially. Right. And that is driven by healthcare factors of chronic illness and that kind of thing. So home healthcare, it depends on, do you need assistance with maintaining the home? And in that sense, it's like, okay, well, are you still mowing the lawn by yourself? Do you need help maintaining the home, cooking, whatever it is? Or are there daily tasks you might need help with? Or are there actual medical procedures you might need help with, all the way down? And I think there's more of an argument the further you go to having that really close by and having support. If you get to a position where you need 24/7 access to care, that's
Yes.
where something would change. Or maybe you want to age in place, and that's great, and situations change because loved ones move away or pass away or your condition changes. I really want to stress, Jonathan, that there isn't a correct answer, and that this is the process of aging is a natural process of life, and that is going to be personal to everybody.
Now, I'm aware of various different facilities, and they have various different capabilities, and some are what I would call more integrated, where you can be in independent living and then in assisted living and then in nursing care and memory care. Is that the direction everybody's going? Because I'm aware of many centers that don't have that much variety or flexibility. What's the trend that's happening?
You called out the trend. So what used to be called CCRCs, which is a acronym, is now called life plan communities oftentimes. And that is an idea where we have a community where it starts at the very end of, I really don't need much help, but I'd like to be in a community and maybe not have to mow the lawn and that kind of thing.
Sure.
And living independently in a variety of ways. But then I can stay at that place, maybe not that same unit, as my needs change over time, allowing me to build some community. And so that seems to be a trend. And then outside of that, you also, one of the trends, unfortunately, is that you're seeing a widening of the gap outside of that. What I mean by that is you're for very stereotypically high income earners before retirement, there are very luxury communities that are popping up on beaches and with amazing amenities, and it almost feels like a luxury environment. Then you're also seeing more of like Medicaid funded communities there, and it seems like sometimes, and this is a nationwide trend, the middle there can be forgotten about, quote unquote, not actually, because there's a lot of folks that are helping them, but right. It seems to be, it's bifurcating.
Right. So what you're talking about is kind of, it's referred to in medication as the donut hole. So you have people who are getting support through Medicaid, and you have people who are getting support who have a lot of money, but what happens to the people who are kind of in between with modest income and need help?
Yes, exactly. Because it's not free. And when supply and demand are like this, it's, even if you do have a great community nearby, that doesn't mean that there's an open place for you, yes, or even though that it's easy to get, even if you desired to go in that direction. So it really just depends on where you're at, what your life situation is, and what's important to you.
Good. And so tell us a little bit about how ProCare is growing. What key services are you providing to senior living operations?
Well, at best, if you are a resident in one of these communities, you don't know we exist. We are a HR managed services firm that really works within senior housing, and we're partnering with those operators. Why we say I would hope you don't know we exist is because we're really there to make sure the operations are smooth and that those places are a great place to work, because those operators typically have a very good commitment to that and to their people.
Mhm.
One of our theses of how we feel like we're making an impact outside of money is the idea that if somebody has a great work environment, has great access to technology as part of their work, get great access to benefits that they need for their life situation, they're better able to give themselves fully to their work and be present. If your job is to provide care or do anything within one of these communities, if you're doing that, you're doing it better, which means that should trickle down to better care outcomes.
Good. Great. Well, it sounds like a great organization you're working with. You sound very positive about it, and it's been great talking with you today. We're talking today with Kasey Devine. He's the Vice President of Strategic Growth at ProcareHR, and they specialize in senior living operations and human resources. We've been talking today about how to be a better consumer of healthcare for seniors. What are some of the trends in both technology and living situations? And we will be providing a lot of links on our webpage so that you can get more resources and learn more about the kinds of topics that Kasey's been talking about in this interview. And you go to GoToHealthMedia.com. In the top header, you'll see a search bar. And if you put in senior care, you'll come up with this interview. It'll be easy to find, and you can enjoy those resources. Thanks so much for being with us today, Kasey. It was good having you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Great. And everybody, thanks for watching. Remember to join us for our next show and subscribe to us on YouTube or subscribe to us on our website, like our YouTube channel, and more people will see our videos and get helped. Thanks so much. Again, this has been Jonathan Marks with GoToHealth Media. Take care. Thank you for tuning in this week to GoToHealth Media. Be sure to join Jonathan Marks and another health expert next time. You can also catch the program on your favorite podcast platform. Until our next show, be sure to visit us on the web at gotohealthmedia.com and elevate your life.